Tracy, if you want, when we go up, there's a spot right there that he can come join us at. When, okay, should we go ahead and? Okay, we'll cue you in just a second, then we'll let that go. We'll wait for that to get fixed up.
I'm Tracy Smith, the facilitator for today's meeting. And I'm hearing an echo. All right, so I would like to welcome everyone to our PCEF meeting this evening. And right now we'll move over to our meeting participation guidelines. So this is a virtual hybrid meeting, and the guidelines for public participation. The committee meetings are open to the public, and the public is invited to comment at around 6:05 p.m. Around 7 p.m. we will have a break, and online participants will see a break screen. From there will be no online discussion available during the break. If you could remember, please, that the chat, please use that to introduce yourself for online members, and it at other times is not going to be hosted by PCEF staff. Committee members, please raise your hand when you would like to share comments. And the video, we will have committee members only on video, and we're asking public members to mute your microphones. This meeting is being recorded, and there's closed captioning as well. At this point, we're going to move to introductions, and we have one member who was online. Ranfis, if you could start and introduce yourself.
Yeah, I just wanted to know, I think we have two members online, including Alicia Chapman. But hi, everyone. My name is Ranfis Genovia Toro, committee member, and use he, him pronouns.
Hello, Alicia. Sorry, didn't see you there. If you can go next.
Yes, hi, thank you. Alicia Chapman, she, her pronouns. I am a new member on the committee and founder and CEO of Willamette Technical Fabricators, which is a transportation and clean energy infrastructure company in Portland. Happy to be with you all tonight.
And thank you. And later this evening, we'll get more in depth around new member introductions. All right, Ciara, starting at your end, please.
Hi, Ciara Pressler. I primarily use she, her pronouns, and from Pregame, I am a strategic consultant.
Good evening, Robin Wang, PCEF committee member, he, him.
Hello, Maria Sippin, they or she pronouns, PCEF committee member.
Hi, everyone. Really glad to be here. Faith Graham, committee member, she, her pronouns.
Good evening, everybody. D'Angelo Moaning, he, him pronouns.
Good morning, or good evening. Michael Eden Hill, committee member, he, him pronouns.
Hi, everybody. Megan Horst, she, her pronouns, committee member and co-chair.
Good evening, everyone. Paul Lumley, he, him pronouns, committee member.
All right, nice to be here with you all this evening. Sam Barrasso, PCEF program manager, he, him.
I'm Katie Lister, I use she, her pronouns. I'm the deputy program manager.
Now we'll introduce we'll review the agenda. So again, public comment at around 6:05 p.m. We will be reviewing and approving the meeting minutes from June 22nd and June 29th. At 6:20, we'll have new committee member introductions. At 6:30, we'll be looking at the proposed climate investment plan for final recommendation to City Council. At 7 o'clock, we'll have a 15-minute break, and then we'll come back and continue with the climate investment plan. At 7:30, we'll be reviewing bylaws and working agreements. And I just want to make sure that if anyone online has public comment, we have 2 so far, but if there's any additional folks who would like to make public comment, to please put your name in the chat. All right, so at this point, we will move over to public comment. I'll start online with Blanca.
Good afternoon, PSF committee and staff. My name is Blanca Gaitan Farfan, and I'm the Policy and Communications Director at Participatory Budgeting Oregon. Thank you all for your work on PSF, and welcome to the new committee members. Thank you for taking on this very important role. On behalf of our team at PB Oregon, youth from Youth Voice, Youth Vote, and other advocates for PB, I'm sharing our support for the proposed draft language in the plan for climate-friendly schools that would allow school districts to use up to $150,000 of a school district's allocation for a participatory budgeting process. Thank you for listening to community input and including PB in the climate investment plan. We hope PSF can encourage school districts to take this opportunity to bring PB to their students and reassure them that PB is worthwhile and effective for engaging youth in shared decision-making. As school districts and PSF explore PB and PB implementation, we look forward to seeing how much funding school districts decide to allocate for projects through PB and how these processes run. Youth leaders who have been involved in Youth Voice, Youth Vote, Oregon's first participatory budgeting process, are students, alumni, and community members within the school districts that will have access to these funds. They are knowledgeable, have hands-on experience with PB implementation, and are committed to continue supporting with PB education and implementation efforts. PB Oregon also looks forward to partnering or serving as a resource for advancing PSF's successful implementation of PB across school districts in Portland. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Blanca. We have one individual here in the room.
Thank you. My name's Scott Kosmecki. I did not put together quite an elegant introduction as the previous person did. That was lovely. Again, my name's Scott Kosmecki. I own a company called Resilient Framing Systems, and I've just finished being the vice president of the Passive House Northwest, which is a regional passive house trade organization that pushes for high-performance building operation throughout our region. We've been around for about 13 years or so. And I came here just to push my support towards this, towards your draft agreement, and just to explain that myself and several other business people, contractors especially, are ready to push new building and remodeling to the 21st century. Our company alone is doing sort of leverages technology and off-site construction to get passive house level construction assemblies to different contractors at cost parity with code-built buildings. So it's definitely possible. We've been doing it in Europe for a very long time, and we can definitely do it here in new construction. And our opinion is that any new construction, at least, should be done to the passive house standards. Otherwise, you're sort of missing the boat, I would say. Yeah. But that was it, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Scott. Sam, I will turn it over to you for approval of the minutes.
Okay, just keeping us going and keeping us on track on our committee meeting minutes. We sent those to you all to review for your June 22nd committee meeting minutes, as well as for your June 22nd meeting, as well as your June 29th meeting. And so just want to see if committee members had a chance to review those meeting minutes and if there is a proposal to approve those meeting minutes.
Sure, I'll propose to approve both sets of meeting minutes from the 22nd and the 29th of June.
Great. Okay, we can just go through the roll then, I guess. Maybe we'll just keep it simple, start here, go that way, and then we'll move online.
So my understanding is you have a category of voting is stand aside. Because
Yeah.
I was not there at the previous meetings, I will vote stand aside. But I did read the minutes, thank you.
And I vote to approve the 622 notes, and because I wasn't at the 629 meeting, I will also stand aside on that one.
I vote to approve.
I did read the minutes, but I will also stand aside as I was not present.
I approve. Thank you for making the adjustments to committee affiliations in the roster.
I approve.
Okay, we'll move to Ranfis and then Alicia.
I approve both. Thank you.
And then Alicia.
I'll stand aside, thanks.
Okay, so we'll trust our handy note taker, Cameron, to capture those, and thank you all for the approval. We'll get those posted. Okay. I think it's going to continue to me, isn't it? All right. This feels different in part because we've got a lot more folks with us, and so I know that I just want to thank Megan for being consistent for the past year around making sure we've got new committee members. It was right around this time that Jeffrey rolled off last year, and then and Shanice earlier this year, and so we've got a full committee again, and we wanted to just start with giving an opportunity for our newest committee members to introduce themselves to you all. You all will get to know each other a lot more, but we've had the benefit of spending a good chunk of time with them over the past couple of weeks, and certainly last week. And so I think I'm certainly ecstatic and excited about this group and the body you all have become, and what's to come ahead. And so with that, as folks know, and this is mainly for members of the public that'll chime in afterwards because our Zoom pictures are always small, we've got Alicia Chapman, who introduced herself just a bit ago, from Willamette Technical Fabricators, with us joining the committee now, Paul Lumley with the Cascade AIDS Project, and D'Angelo Moning from Raymore Construction. But there's so much more than this, and so I think I gave them a prompt to share a little bit about their backgrounds, interest in this committee, and a little bit of what they hope to see in the future. So maybe, Alicia, maybe we'll start with you.
Yeah, thanks, Sam. Alicia Chapman, she, her pronouns. As Sam mentioned, I'm the founder and CEO of Willamette Technical Fabricators. I actually began my career working for the U.S. Agency for International Development, and some of the programs that I managed were specifically focused on climate change mitigation. I was also responsible for monitoring and evaluation, so providing Congress with evidence of the effectiveness of taxpayer-funded programs and proposing changes to programs that weren't achieving their goals. I moved to Portland in 2012 to pursue a PhD in public policy, and I worked as a National Science Foundation funded researcher at Portland State's Institute for Sustainable Solutions. I was focused on payments for ecosystem services, which is a field of economics that tries to measure the benefits that people receive from the environment, and particularly the return on investment for downstream communities to protect their resources for everyone's benefit, which is actually the theoretical foundation to support climate action investments like PSEF. It also provides an empirical basis to measure the impact of these kinds of investments and inform policies that make the best use of our limited resources. So my current role as a business owner focuses on building infrastructure that is necessary to reduce our fossil fuel dependency. I'm also hyper aware of the intersection between the environment and economic policy and job creation, particularly for the communities that are typically the most vulnerable to climate change and who are also the ones who are typically underrepresented in green tech, the industry that's combating climate change, which is really the reason I'm most interested in being on the committee and where I think can add the most value. And I am optimistic about Portland's climate action and resilience efforts because I've seen a real concerted effort between the nonprofit and business communities and our electeds and our community leaders, especially recently, to work together to try to solve some of these really complex problems, and especially to leverage the huge federal investment and prioritization and really highlight our region as a center of excellence and innovation, which is work I'm really excited to be a part of and excited to work with you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alicia. It's been wonderful getting to know you over the past few weeks, and I'm excited about the rest of the group getting to know you, and vice versa for you to know the rest of the group. Let's turn it to you, Paul.
Thank you, Sam, and hello, everybody. My full name is Baptist Paul Lumley, so you might see that sometimes, but I go by Paul. He, him pronouns. I'm a citizen of the Yakima Nation. I grew up on the Yakima Reservation and fished quite a bit on the Columbia River through most of my youth and young adulthood. Ended up getting my first professional job at the Columbia River Intertribal Fish Commission as a summer intern, and then eventually served as their executive director in the years 2009 to 2016. And we had quite a bit of focus on climate change during that period of time and developed some climate action plans, which I thought were fascinating, with a primary focus on natural resources and salmon in particular. Was in Washington, D.C. for a while and served as the executive director of the National American Indian Housing Council and learned quite a bit about affordable housing development. Up until a few weeks ago, I was the CEO for the Native American Youth and Family Center, or NAYA, and we did quite a bit of affordable housing development work there and worked in the range of education and social services and economic development. It was a wonderful job. I love NAYA, don't get me wrong, but I did start on Saturday at the Cascade AIDS Project as their CEO, which is pretty exciting for me, and so I'm finishing my first week up and really excited about this committee's work. I think what you developed with this climate implementation plan is fantastic. There are the amount of resources we have over the next 5 years is going to make a difference. And I'm very excited about being part of this journey with you and setting a new standard for this nation that the city of Portland can do this right. That's what I'm so excited about. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Paul. And last but not least, I know some of you all have got a chance to meet D'Angelo already, but let's give it to D'Angelo now as an official committee member. D'Angelo.
Thank you very much. Very excited to be here. My name is D'Angelo Moaning. I serve as the Chief of Staff and I have so many different roles at Raymore, but specifically the Public Engagement Coordinator. So my job is a lot of community outreach. I'm also the First Vice President and Economic Development Chair for the NAACP, and I'm the Executive Director of Louisa, which is a small business space that's located on Northeast MLK in Stanton. I'm very excited to be part of PCEF, primarily because I have a lot of vested interest in physical, digital, and environmental infrastructure. And I see PCEF as a perfect crossroad for that, especially as it pertains to the work that I do in the community with the various roles that I serve. I think the Climate Investment Plan is fantastic. And I'm most excited because I've seen that impacted communities have an opportunity to be really have a part or a seat at the table. I think impacted communities have done a very good job of having social equity, but I think through PCEF there's an opportunity for real economic and political equity as well. And if this is done correctly, this process can be emulated across the United States in various cities. So I'm excited to see the work that happens here and see that emulated across different impacted communities across the nation. So thank you.
Okay, we went pretty quickly. So we have, I think we're happy to journey on unless anyone else wants to share anything, but I mean, I think in some ways I want to turn it to you, Megan, because you've been consistently honest about making sure it's a full group again, and so I think that's going to bring a lot to the discussions you all have, certainly tonight, but certainly moving forward. But Megan, Ramfis, I don't know if you all want to share anything else. Likewise, Rob and Maria, you two were also involved in the recruitment, but just want to do that before maybe we move on. Not to put you on the spot, but to give you an opening if you want to take it.
Yeah, I'll say something briefly, and we'll hopefully get to introduce ourselves a little more fully out of a formal meeting space. But yes, as Sam said, I've been a champion for getting our empty seats filled, and I'm so glad that they are filled by you three. You three, thanks for the introductions, and we got a little background on you, and you seem like you're all bringing excellent skills and perspectives to our committee, and you're also bringing lots of optimism and enthusiasm, which I'm just feeling in the air right now, in your words and also the energy, and I'm just feeling really enthused. So thank you so much for joining us and for devoting a significant portion of your time and energy to this in the coming months and years, and I'm looking forward to collaborating and getting to know you better. So, and as Ramfis and I have reached out to you, please feel free to reach out to us if you feel like you could use some additional kind of onboarding outside of the formal meeting space, which is kind of a little intimidating with these microphones, but anyway, we're here, and thanks for coming in at a really important time. You'll be here as we kind of vote on this climate investment plan. You've all referenced it in one way, shape, or form. So it sounds like you've already done your homework and gotten really up to speed, and that's great. So anyway, looking forward to hitting the ground running with you all.
Yeah, if I could just share just a few words as well, just try to be brief here. I'm really excited for each of you to join this committee. I really want to emphasize that this is your committee now as well. And I think we're in a great period where, I think some of us are now serving what will be our final term of 3 years. So I think the leadership transition will be really important. So please, I think, I know we're about to review the climate investment plan today, but I think what will be really critical as we move forward is making sure at each stage throughout this process that there's shared ownership, not just between the committee, but for the general public at large. So welcome again, and hopefully we'll look forward to connect together down the road.
Sam, you're on again.
Thank you. All right. Well then. So as we move into this next part of the agenda, we've been going at this now for the better part of the past eight and a half months. And so I think what we want to do for anyone just chiming in that's maybe plugging in now or just a past meeting is walk us through where we've been, the process for developing the plan, and then give an overview of the plan. I mean, it is 68 plus pages. And so, and we will edit it down and tweak it and make visual adjustments, but we won't dive as deep into the plan, but we will give an overview before we give you all space for your discussion, and then see where we land. And I know that, I think, just for a reminder for folks, we've got about on the agenda plan 30 minutes before, and then we expect we may take a break, and then come back to continue discussing it. So that's our next moves. Okay. First, it's been a long road getting here. It started off with a handful of us coming on board, greeting you all, and I think the first cohort of you all in September of 2019, and then we filled out the full committee in November of 2019, and immediately begun developing the program, our initial grant-making systems based on what the voters voted on and what community put on the ballot. I'd say as dutifully implemented that program, and in doing so, we put out our initial application support grants early on during the pandemic in July of 2020. We released RFP number 1 in September of 21 and made those first awards in September of 2020 and made those first awards in spring of 2021. Through that time, we awarded many mini grants, and so those were to seed a lot of ideas within the community and provide early small funding for folks to engage in projects. Buy little solar powered generators for Native American stand at the farmers market. A range of small projects. And then we kicked off our major second RFP, which was building on our beta round in RFP number 1. And at the same time, we launched Cooling Portland, which is actively humming along this summer and on target to exceed its goals. And so many RFPs, over 145 million awarded over during that time, many proposals reviewed, community ideas digested, and many of you all have been integral side by side along with us in reviewing all those ideas. Many grants under management and allocation has begun, and we've begun implementation of the 100 million in the 2 fast-track programs, including awarding about up to 8 million or 9 million for strategic program number 1 focused on affordable housing, multifamily, clean energy upgrades and affordable housing. And through that time, and this actually counts for other things that we've done through the Climate Investment Plan, we've also hosted over 60 engagement events, engaging over 1,200 participants. And so I went a little past this moment here on this graphic, but a lot of those earlier set of information really accumulated, and as well as an audit that we received early on in the program, and a lot of that accumulated in a set of code changes that Commissioner Rubio brought together in October of 2022, largely to respond to many of the early lessons learned, as well as the fact that we are pulling in significantly more funding than what was originally projected. And so those objectives of those code changes were to identify changes to PSEF to enable accelerated funding of carbon reduction projects in alignment with the ballot measure, draw clear and more relevant connections between PSEF and the city's citywide carbon reduction goals, given the expiration of the climate action plan for the city, addressing administrative operational needs, and then addressing remaining audit recommendations. Which all of that, and one of the key things and the key elements of these code changes really set into motion the development of the climate investment plan, a 5-year plan which guides funding levels for what we are funding and really setting out the outcomes and goals for our community responsive grants and strategic programs, as well as how much we are funding in those 2 areas. So that collectively, as we move forward, as you all see and evaluate and provide guidance to the program, we all know where we're going. And so that put in motion the development of this climate investment plan, which we're here to discuss today. During that same window, we immediately begun working on 2 fast-track programs focused on equitable tree canopy, as well as clean energy and regulated affordable housing. And so those we're actively working on, but the move here is really about engaging folks, taking all those early lessons learned so that we can set the trajectory for the program so we can effectively respond to and be able to evaluate what is working well, what isn't, and that everyone transparently knows where we're going. After this evening, hopefully, fingers crossed, we will eventually get to City Council after you all make your recommendation, where we will present the climate investment plan, and then once City Council takes action and approves the plan, we will immediately begin releasing future, other funding opportunities, including our next RFP, Community Responsive Grant Round, RFP number 3, as well as launching the programs within the climate investment plan. Getting here, and I just provided a little bit of the backstory to getting to here and where we're going, but there's been a lot of engagement, and so this is just a visual that you all have seen over the past several months around some of the different touches and levels of engagement, which were ultimately designed by our talented colleague Jen Reyes to make sure that we were able to incorporate feedback at many different levels and create an equitable process to bring in folks that may not necessarily be subject matter experts, but absolutely live within the community, are on the front lines, bear the greatest impacts of climate change, all the way to those that live and breathe this on their day-to-day, and as well as those that that do this from a policy realm within the city, within the county, within the state, and other agencies around us. And so we convened over 20 topic area roundtables discussing these issues. We've worked and connected with stakeholder experts throughout this. We've had community input through virtual events, online surveys, in-person workshops, and then, as you all know, we've been briefing you all on a monthly, bi-monthly, and more so in some instances basis through this time period. In addition to what I just mentioned there, we also had a panel review. So as some folks came in as subject matter topic area experts, we wanted a group of folks that could look at the plan in its entirety. So we convened 2 community review panels, one focused on youth, as well as another community review panel that had frontline community members. And with both of those, we really we really actively worked to make sure that we had folks with disability perspectives that could engage and look at the plan in its entirety. And so we've convened those groups throughout this as well. Sequentially, we'll get into this and we'll get into a little bit more detail on the engagement, but we did start the process off with a kickoff with an accessibility overview, community visioning, our preliminary draft for public comment, our full draft, and now we're here with you today, bringing the next set of changes. Diving a little deeper. We started off with our project overview and accessibility, and we mainly wanted to know, what do folks need within the community to participate in this process? We had 176 respondents, 95 representing frontline community members, 8 youth, and we hosted 1 virtual session. And we produced a report so that it informed just how we were able to engage folks through the rest of the process. Moving on from that, we dug into our community visioning phase. This was a higher level phase where we were asking basic and higher level questions like, what is a climate resilient future that you want to see? And through that, we had 150 survey respondents, 67 of which came from frontline community members, 418 comments coming from our in-person workshops, our virtual workshops, as well as our targeted nonprofit workshop. We had 2 in-person public workshops during this time period, as well as 1 virtual workshop. And these are all pictures. These aren't stock images. Maybe some of them are in the middle there, but most of these are pictures that we took. And we moved in after convening the roundtables, taking in that visioning of what is the climate future folks want to see. We really put together our first synthesis of all of that feedback and information into the preliminary draft. And so we released that in early March all the way through early April. And that was pulling together all those initial ideas to say, here's our first blush of everything we've heard and how we're pulling it together. And I think it should be expected. That's where we had our most robust set of feedback coming in terms of the number of comments, as in folks were first seeing it and really dug into it. We had over 500 comments that came through a series of in-person workshops, virtual workshops, and submissions via an online survey. Of that, I think it's important to note that we had 118 individual submissions that represented individuals, so 40 individuals, 32 community-based organizations that were bringing in all of those behind them within the community that they represented, 3 electeds across 1 letter, 9 government offices or public sector partners, as well as 12 businesses. Now, these are all pictures that we did take. Okay. And I think maybe this is just an incredible kudos, I would say, and I know June's not here with us tonight, but just the way in which she brought folks together. The second picture you all see there in from the left is a picture of some art that we had at an event at CORE off of 82nd Avenue, where we had a handful of artists from a collective doing a lot of crafts and work and bringing youth and getting them to work. And this was just that part. We also had a mural board that you all will see at some point that came along to each of our events that was built on so that at the end of this process, there's a mural that we've developed that came along through each of our events. But that's the sort of really both tactile, like really getting folks to show up and feel these things in different ways. But it was about creating space for kids to engage, as well as art to really capture and have folks be able to share out and reflect on the process as it moved along. And so that will be somewhere. We've got to find a home for it at some point in this, but it'll be a big mural that'll come along with us. Okay. And then we moved into June, where we released our full draft, and that was based on further discussions with you all, based on the comments we got from our preliminary draft, where we refined the drafts, we fine-tuned them, we published goals and more clear outcome measures so that folks had a little bit more of that resolution and that detail they could respond to. And there we categorized over 130 comments. We hosted 1 public workshop, an online information session, 1 virtual listening session. And through that, we had 48 comment submissions, 22 from individuals, 12 from community-based organizations, 3 from educational institutions, 20 that covered electeds across 3 letters. So folks writing in from our school districts, our city electeds at the city, and then legislature. We had 3 from government offices or other public sector partners, such as Parks, Bureau of Transportation, the Water Bureau, and then we had 4 from businesses. I think this may be the last slide, but okay. And so that just, I think that captures the engagement. And that'll certainly continue with the party at some point on the other side of this when this passes at City Council. But again, just a major kudos certainly to June, who was I think the architect behind this, but also to Rachel, who really managed to make this work as smooth as possible and showed up in all the spaces and supported the youth panel, as well as a lot of these convenings across the entire city. Rachel, I can say this, also got stuck during the snow day in making a journey home, and that was a lesson on our end to think through whether more, but just a lot of folks, including many of the staff members who showed up to make these events enjoyable and really show up to how folks get connected directly to staff and be able to share their ideas directly with staff and know that we're hearing them and taking every bit of feedback as as to heart and as much as we can. Okay. Which brings us to the plan and its framework and really the way that we've oriented and designed this. So for members of the public and others, the plan is organized around the background, which starts with our basic premise around our priority populations, and then really getting into the funding forecast and our revenue forecast, as well as the purpose of the program. And the document then was oriented around our grounding and values and things that are relevant to every single one of the investments and programs that are defined within the plan. That's one, that the plan is fundamentally about climate impact and greenhouse gas emissions reductions. It is about benefits to frontline communities, direct benefits, indirect benefits. It is about engaging community and implementation partners together. A major element of the code changes was recognizing that in order to achieve our goals, that we need to be working in partnership between the private sector, government sector, as well as our nonprofit partners to bring this and grow us collectively. And then accountability, in that this is about transparency, how we measure the outcomes, and as well as how we report on those and how we evaluate so that we can make and do this work better over time and learn from that, as well as share out what's working well, what isn't, so that you all are able to effectively guide us in that. And then lastly, and certainly very importantly, is workforce and contractor equity. And this was an element that was always how do we weave this throughout, because it truly is something that spans the entirety of the plan, not only the investments that we make into directly training folks, but obviously also how we support folks all across our jobs to make sure that we're creating hospitable places for them to show up. And we're creating really incentives for folks to raise the bar across this work. Just going to go over here at a high level, because we aren't going to dive into specific programs or in this, but the outlay in terms of across our programs is about, we were planning for $750 million over 5 years. So roughly $150 million a year that we'll be allocating. And in that, about 63% is going to be going towards energy efficiency and renewable energy. So these are our investments in our single-family home programs, investments in multifamily buildings, both regulated and unregulated, investments in small commercial buildings, and then many of the other things that'll fall within our community responsive grants, such as community solar, such as retrofitting nonprofit and other community-owned buildings. But that's the vast majority, and that largely aligns with the original ballot measure, if folks remember. It was 40 to 60% was the original ballot measure, and so really tracking towards that. The next funding category is transportation decarbonization. This was about supporting folks in moving around, getting around, connecting with their loved ones, their workplaces, and many other places in healthier ways, in ways that are less impactful on the environment. And so this is a new funding category for us, transportation decarbonization. And this is where we see our community responsive grants to help either community-based organizations electrify their fleets, or where we have our two strategic programs, one focused on electric bikes, as well as another focused on expanding access to the Portland Bureau of Transportation's transportation wallet. Next funding category is green infrastructure. It's about 9%. And so for transportation decarbonization overall, the funding allocation is roughly about $130 million. For green infrastructure, 9%, around $70 million. And this was primarily our work with the Urban Forestry Division at Portland Parks and Recreation in supporting expanding equitable tree canopy and planting more trees within the city, establishing them, maintaining them, as well as supporting maintaining existing tree canopy within the city. Go to climate jobs, workforce development. This is 6% of our funding. This is primarily focused on community responsive grants for upstream youth exposure to climate careers, so making sure our youth are aware of these opportunities, as well as more direct job placement and contractor training efforts. So think our investments in pre-apprenticeship programs, apprenticeship programs, as well as contractor support programs, so we're diversifying the contractors that are leading on these projects. Regenerative ag, 3%, or roughly $20 million, and that is for supporting growing more food within this city, healthier food that's closer and more accessible, and helping folks get connected to the land. So this is parsed out between our community responsive grants, which is about that backyard gardening, urban gardening, but as well as supporting some groups in developing more parcels for urban agriculture, so we have more land available within the city for growing food locally. We've got our 2% for capacity building. This is also a new funding category, and this was focused on our mini grants program and capturing that work, as well as a cohort to support developing organizational capacity across our nonprofit sectors that are growing in this space. And then other is the catch-all that we still have for projects that don't neatly fall in these categories. All right, getting close to discussion, y'all. So I think there's a couple more slides after this, but the overview is that, one, we have community responsive grants. That is our core, that is our origin, that is where we started from. It remains true. I think there's always concerns, but that is a core element of this plan, and that exists across all of our funding categories. Outside of community responsive grants, we have 16 strategic programs that are outlined within this plan, focused on those funding categories I described earlier. We've got our tree canopy maintenance reserve, as well as countless opportunities, as well as more specifically laid out partnership potential between government, community, and in our business community. And so across all of our work, a key element of this was the equity and climate framework. I touched on it a bit ago, but it's really about ensuring benefits to frontline communities, ensuring community leadership in our efforts, making sure that what we're proposing across this plan and the work that we do is feasible, that we've got the folks here that can do the work, and then making sure that it is about fundamentally that we've got meaningful, measurable greenhouse gas emissions that are occurring in these projects, and that there are clear accountability frameworks for this to make sure we're delivering on behalf of community and the environment. And so, without going into the specifics of each of the programs, and I touched on a bit of them before, this slide is just capturing some of the outcomes that we've defined within the Climate Investment Plan. So we're talking about training 1,000 low-income and youth of color and making sure they're exposed to climate careers so they know of these opportunities as they leave primary school. That we're supporting training 700 to 900 workers to have skills, certifications, to enter and develop careers in the climate sector. I'm going to move ahead. This is about making sure that we are doing clean energy improvements in about 2,600 unregulated multifamily units, a sector that's long been neglected, 3,200 single-family homes, a combination of deep energy retrofits as well as high-impact targeted measure improvements, and then 65 small commercial buildings. And in some of those, making sure that we're stabilizing rent where folks are tenants. We've got about 6,000 e-bikes we anticipate distributing out of this to income-qualified households, and 15,000 to 20,000 transportation wallets to income-qualified households. We'll have about 800 to 2,000 low-income households receiving critical tree pruning services, so we're sequestering carbon and making sure our large trees are still creating shade and creating habitat, as well as planting new trees. 15 to 25,000 across our public and private properties. Within the regenerative agriculture sector, it's about making sure we're getting at least 40,000 additional square feet of land dedicated to urban farming. So we're making sure folks can closely get connected to the land, grow the land in ways that are healthier for the environment, healthier for us, and so forth. And then across this climate investment plan, supporting at least 16 to 20 nonprofits with increased and really a targeted, focused investment in those nonprofits so they have increased capacity to advance climate justice work. And so we've been at this now I think we've been touching different parts of this. You all have heard different parts of this, but I think this next slide is really to turn it over to you all, and we've got some prompts here, and but I think that sums up my portion of the presentation, and I'll stop with that and give the floor over.
Are there any questions or comments? Renfis.
Hey, thank you, Sam, for giving us an overview again on both the process, but also what's been captured in the climate investment plan. I just want to give kudos to staff and the entire team and all the consultants who've been brought in to do this tremendous amount of work. I think this summer has been a reminder of just the kind of climate emergency that we are in and what that we're experiencing, and the need to move to more resiliency strategies and climate adaptation strategies to ensure our communities are being protected by extreme weather. I think no plan is perfect. I think it's only so good based on the feedback and input that you receive, and I think that's always a tall order in the short amount of time that we've directed via the code change. But I think I just want to give kudos for staff, because I believe you, with given the time constraints and the expectations for the public, I believe you all have done above and beyond what's expected. I'm of the mind, what excites me more about what's in the climate improvement plan is the investments into school and school infrastructure. Others might disagree. There might be other things that are more exciting, but that's, I think, the creativity here of the plan. There is something here for everyone. And I think if we'll ever get critiques for PSEF, I doubt it'll be that we are doing too much. It'll be that we're not doing enough. And I think it is strange to say that this investment is not enough to do all the things that we need to do, but I think it will be a tremendous lift. And I hope this climate investment plan can show, create hope and opportunities for where the state and other entities can be more aggressive in its investments on climate action. So I've said a lot, but I just want to, again, just really give kudos to the team on this. Really excited for the next steps. I'm really curious to hear from our new committee members, given that we've gone most of this process without hearing from them. I'm really curious to hear their input, but again, I really want to hear from the full committee, any top level feedback. But again, deep appreciation, and yep, and thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I heard Renfis invite others, but I think we have time for all of us to chime in. Yeah, it's been a long, deliberative process to get to this day. So that was a great summary, Sam. And it's not a surprise for those of us who've been here, although it's nice to see it summarized, especially since I have a little vacation brain. So you asked for high-level feedback and comments, and I echo Renfis in saying just overall, I'm so excited and in favor of the plan. A couple things I would want members of the public, since that's the question you're asking, to understand about this proposed CIP or the process. Well, one is, I think you made it very clear, Sam, and we've seen over the last year, well, really in the history of PSEF, but particularly in the CIP, just the deliberative and deep public and stakeholder engagement. Like, the public should definitely know this is not like it's come out of some backroom dealing. This is a public plan, a people's plan that has involved 650 comments, I think I added up from what you said. There were 2 more tonight, tons of letters, tons of all these roundtables. I got to participate deeply in 2 of them, the regenerative ag and the equitable tree canopy, and I saw the level of engagement by diverse members of our city, from private and nonprofit and city staff who care about, the goals of the plan. So that's kind of one big thing is I want members to know is there's been a deep and thoughtful public engagement process and just tons of engagement. Like, this is not a plan that's come out of nowhere. It's a democratic process. So that's one. The second one is that I think, like Renfis said, there can be lots of opinions about what the plan should be. And I may not agree with every single cent that's everything, but what I do believe is that the plan has been developed according to our guiding principles, or what you called the equity and climate framework. Like, that everything that is in the plan is thoughtful about our 5 guiding principles, or thoughtful about what is the impact to climate mitigation or adaptation, and what is the impact to racial and social justice. And those are the top 2 leading priorities that underpin everything in the plan. And I very much believe that, alongside community leadership and accountability. and things like that. So I think you can kind of see that through line through the entire 16 strategic program areas and the ongoing community RFP. So that's kind of a second thing, is that the plan stays very true to those values, which a lot of other climate action plans don't hold racial and social equity at the forefront. And I think that's what really stands out in this plan. And so that's something I want the public to know. And then the third one is that's going to have a huge impact. I mean, Sam, you shared some of the predicted outcomes we have of it. And some of those are, I mean, I focused on the tree and agricultural related ones because those are my areas of focus, but up to 25,000 new trees in Portland and another several thousand maintained. And I mean, those are big numbers that are crucial to our city's climate resilience and adaptation, and also to the other benefits that come alongside this. It's kind of another layer of this plan, is it's not just a climate plan, it's also going to directly benefit city residents in sort of a multitude of ways. So those are like the three high-level things that, big public process, true to value, and big impact are like the three kind of key things that I feel about the plan. And I'm not naive. I think there's still a road ahead of whatever we just, our decision tonight, that there are possibly people in the city who don't believe that PSEF should operate according to these guiding values, that they want to do other things with the money. So I think we have stayed true to our guiding values, and I hope they'll stand with it, with the plan, support the plan. And then you asked, how do you hope to support? Well, that is one thing I didn't hear a lot about. And I'm a Harper, besides new members, another thing I harp a lot on is metrics and reporting. And I do want to hear more about that tonight, because I think we really do need, that's our role now going forward after we presumably approve this plan and support it and go forward, that we become the people holding it accountable. So I want to know what's our plan to evaluate these strategic program areas. We have 16 strategic programs plus the community RFPs. I want to see a scheduled timeline. When are we reviewing strategic program 1? When are we reviewing 2? When are we reviewing 3, 4, 5? What are the questions we're asking? What are we doing if those programs aren't going according to plan? And some of them won't. They're going to hit hiccups because that's just how things go. And I know we have accountability mechanisms in place to pivot if needed. But I think that's really crucial. So that's what I want to see going forward, really mostly, is I hope to support, I hope it's by seeing progress reports on these various program areas and weighing in on, well, if this isn't going into plan, what are our alternatives? So that to me is our big role going forward. So I want to see more of a schedule of action on that. And also kind of a schedule that helps me understand the timing of the community RFPs going forward and how those overlap with the 5-year plan. So those are things I'm hoping to see. Are we doing a very similar process to the community RFP last time, just doing it annually going forward? Or I know there's talk of it being slightly different. So how do I have to support it? That's the main way, is just making sure it's being implemented as we envision today, or that we are at least pivoting and adapting when we learn new things. So that's something I want to hear. And that's all I've got for now. I'm looking forward to that party you talked about. But I'll leave space for other committee members.
Paul?
Thank you, and also thank you for those excellent comments. I'm not going to repeat them, but I really agree with them. I'd like to start off by thanking Sam and his team for the excellent briefings we had as new committee members and getting us up to speed and going through the plan. And also compliments on the incredible work you've done, getting community input. I think that should be highlighted as we move this to City Council, because this is a plan that was developed by the people and for the people. And I think we all should be very proud of that. So excellent work. I know that this is a lot more funding for this program than was originally anticipated, and in our conversations together, you've talked about how you're developing your team in a way that can implement as we move forward. But feel free to reach out to us to see what we can do to make sure that you and your team are staffed at the appropriate level. If you have any challenges, bring them forward so we can troubleshoot them with you and support the full implementation, because I think that our biggest risk moving forward is not showing that we can spend all the funding that is coming our way. And I just want to make sure that we're successful here. But I can't tell you how happy I am with the plan. I didn't develop it with you. I just sort of helicoptered in here. And But I'm very proud to be here in support of this plan tonight. Thank you.
What we'll do is take one more comment and then go to break and continue discussions afterwards. So, Robin, or you want Maria?
Thanks, Robin. I want to echo again the gratitude for everybody who's been involved in this, staff especially, and the community members who answered our call to jump in and be part of this in the last 8 months or so. I just can't believe all that time has passed. Again, kudos to June and Rachel. I think you've also done a phenomenal job of giving committee members an active role in shaping the plan and plugging into a lot of the events where our expertise was called upon. So thanks for making that possible. Like Ramfis, I'm excited about the school things. As you know, we're not here right now to add priority populations, but I will continue to echo that young people, that youth are a priority population. Just today, food service distribution events were canceled due to poor air quality in East Portland, as well as the heat. And young people highly depend on a lot of these events to come through, and they depend on adults to show up and make things possible so they can have access to their basic needs and resources. So please continue to keep young people in mind, and I think the plan does a good job of making a lot of room for that. And you know, the adults who will be stewards of making sure that young people are at the table to make decisions. So thanks for all of the intention and following through, everybody in this room and those who couldn't be here. I think this is an excellent thing to bring forward to council, and I know our community members, as well as elected officials, can see a lot of themselves in their leadership in the plan. So we're gonna tag them and make sure they bring it forward the rest of the way too. Thanks.
All right, we'll take a break and come back at, originally I said 7:15, but it's 7:10, so it's a quick. Oh, 7:15, all right. Okay, Sam, 7:15, everyone. Everyone will begin, and Robin, you are going to be next.
Yes, thank you. Welcome everybody back from the break. I just want to say I think this is huge. This has been a huge lift. You know, back in October when this whole CIP was first announced, I was very skeptical. You know, I looked at the timeline and it's like October, and Sam said, you know, we're going to have this plan by August. And I was like, okay, yeah, sure, you know, that type of stuff. So, you know, again, just kudos. I want to echo everybody else's comments. You know, this has been a huge lift. Great job on the staff. You know, I'm not going to repeat all the other comments, but the two things I want to add is, in terms of just what else do we want to tell the public? You know, I think one is, you know, this is $750 million. And yes, that's a lot of money. But at the same time, I think some study that I've seen to make, you know, Portland carbon neutral or zero emissions, you know, would take hundreds of billions of dollars. So, you know, just from that definition alone, you know, $750 million over the next 5 years is a drop in a bucket. You know, if someone's going to compare us to that, we're going to fail. So I think, you know, it's important to give the big picture, whether it's 100 million, 200 billion, I don't know what the actual number is, but it's a very large number. That you know, this is resources. We're very fortunate to have these resources, but it's not going to solve everything. And by that definition, there will be some solutions, some needs that we won't be able to address. And, you know, that's, you know, just kind of a fact of life. So, and I said that kind of harshly, but, you know, I just wanted to point out that, you know, we still have limited resources. And then the other thing, and this is maybe also kind of a question, is, you know, what happens, let's say we approve this today, it goes to City Council, and, you know, what happens if they change the plan? I guess they can change the plan, and, you know, I'm concerned about that. I'm concerned that, you know, in their desire to get, you know, votes or support or whatever, they do the backroom kind of wheeling and negotiation, you know. You know, we mentioned here, this has been a very open, transparent, public engaged process. You know, none of us in this room kind of met together and closed the door and said, hey, let's put 10 million here, 10 million there. Yet I'm concerned that, you know, City Council may do that in their desire to, you know, get whatever agenda they have, you know, through the PSEF funds. So that's my concern. I'm concerned that what we present ultimately to them and what they approve could be vastly different. And I think that would be undoing the will of the people. You know, maybe this is not as solid as an election, but, you know, we had a lot of people, a lot of members of the public, people passionate about this work, provide their input, spend a tremendous amount of time putting all this together, and I'm concerned that, you know, that work will be, you know, in jeopardy. So, but I don't want meant to end on a sour note. I think, again, this is a huge lift. I'm fully supportive of this. So, thank you.
I was not part of the development of the climate investment plan, but I would give my perspective from, you know, an outside perspective. As someone that wasn't totally engaged with the committee, I loved the most about the climate investment plan that I really felt like there was an intentional engagement with the community. I've seen a ton of initiatives come through, not necessarily define what community is, present a solution that the community that did not necessarily agree on or have any input with, and regardless of what they agreed with it or not, these initiatives move forward. So even as an outsider, I really felt very connected to the development. I really did see how PSEF was very intentional in making sure that all ethnic groups were able to contribute, and whether there was an agreement or disagreement, it felt like there was a very good, easy medium met where you may not have hit everybody's total, you know, ideas, but you made sure that they were heard and implemented what you could. I'm very excited about the development regarding infrastructure, especially as it pertains to housing and transportation, bringing equity to both of those areas. And I'm also very excited about contractor engagement, specifically disadvantaged business enterprises and minority contractors, as well as workforce development and really defining what a green job is. I think we're very early in this environmental justice state of things in terms of a society, in terms of a nation. We can't really define what a green job is, but really bringing a voice or bringing clarity to what that looks like in this committee, as well as acknowledging, I want to acknowledge, just being in the contract industry, that there is a labor shortage of 1.5 million bodies. And so I don't expect PSEP to totally bridge that gap. But again, defining what a green job is and bringing those jobs to impacted communities to then develop those communities, I'm just very excited for it, and I'm looking forward to being a part of this committee and helping to develop the implementation of it, especially from a contractor standpoint. So thank you.
I'm really excited about this plan. I haven't always been on board with this. We have butted heads. But I am actually really excited about it now. I always will have my reservations about the city's department's ability to kind of do things in a way that puts community first. But I'm really excited to see how they do it. I think they really do have the ability to do it. And I think that we have the ability to help them find a new way. I think that what I want members of the public to understand is that the community responsive grants are there, and they're there in the same numbers, dollar amounts, and that that didn't change. And that community-based organizations and community-responsive grants are still the most important part of the Portland Clean Energy Fund. And yeah, so I think that's it for me. I think just short and sweet. I think that's the one part that I had a hard time seeing through all this, but it's all there.
Faith?
I don't have much to add, but it's not because I'm lukewarm. I'm extremely excited about this plan. It's that you've all done a really good job capturing, I think, what the important pieces are. I think one thing, I certainly want members of the public to understand that this is their plan, and I think that's come out really clearly in the comments already. It's commented on how this is everyone's plan and how everyone can see themselves in it. And the values and objectives are really clear, which is going to help us hold ourselves accountable to it, which is making me very excited. I wanted to echo, Michael, what you said, and it's not something that I've been thinking a lot about how does the public perceive this work. We've been really focused on these special the programs themselves, so that's what we've been focused on the last several months. But many of the members of the public that I talk to still think of PSEF as the community responsive grants and are talking about their excitement about the next time they get an opportunity to apply for a community responsive grant. So I think that is the heart and center, and it will remain that way, even if the dollars aren't equitably. They are. It's just that they're spread over so many different programs as well. So we're going to have a lot of impact, and I'm excited for that impact. And I'm excited for us, as Megan said, to kick us off, for us to pivot when we need to and to learn. So I'm excited to learn with you all and with all of Portland.
Any other comments from committee members? Alicia, were you shaking your head yes? Oh, okay. All right, Sam?
Okay. That was beautiful to hear. Thank you all. Thank you all for being along with us. It was, I know that there was a lot of question marks. And Robin, I think you captured it. You're like, can we do that before July? And we're like, we can do it. We can do it. Denver did it in 12 months, and we've had a lot more under our belts to get here. So there is a tremendous amount that we're going to learn. And I think it is about how we shift into this next phase. And so One, just thank you all for engaging in all the small group conversations and showing up to all of our in-person meetings and on showing up to our various roundtables and diving into those various places and just holding yourselves and listening and making sure we were genuinely listening. It was always nice to catch you all in these different places and for you all to hear the things we were hearing. So I just appreciate you all diving in and engaging in the way that you have over these past many months, and then meeting up with us till at many times. I mean, we'd go to 9 in the evening. So there's a lot here, and there will be so much more as we move beyond this. But with that, we will have our moment to celebrate. We don't have it yet. It's going to be a second or third week in October. So when we nail that date down, we'll turn around and share that. But one of the next things that we will be doing is working with you all. We will be sharing with you all our schedule of the rollout, but then working with you all to tease out exactly what does that evaluation look like. I think there's many different ways, and we've talked about this at length, including at our work session in early June around that evaluation and how are we tracking both, are we hitting our outcomes versus, what opportunities are there to learn and to adjust and to make this work better, even if we are hitting our outcomes, because there are always those improvement opportunities. And so we're absolutely interested in both of those, and figuring out that cadence for that is going to be important. And that's the next place that we'll want to dive in with you all. And so that's all I have to say, and just want to thank you all tremendously for everything you all have put into this for the past many months, including, and most definitely to the team. I mean, I mentioned Rachel and June, who have done so much, but absolutely Katie, who's been in it through, and James, who have been right there in each of our huddles as we've convened weekly with Ciara to tease out how we're moving each of these pieces along and workshop and troubleshoot as we work to get this to this point. And that thanks goes to the rest of the team who you all have connected with in different periods. I know Chris is online as well, but the rest of the team. So thank you. And I think the next piece here that I'll just move on the slide is a quick reminder for us around our decision-making process, which is for folks and for particularly new committee members. We shared this to you all last week, but I tend to forget because we don't get to these moments so often. But you all have, the committee has a modified consensus decision-making process where a committee member puts forth a proposal for consideration. There's a temperature check for committee members to indicate how they're feeling, if they're comfortable with making a decision or whether they want to discuss it further. And then if additional discussion is needed, that can happen. Committee members can offer amendments to the original proposal. And then ultimately there's a round where committee members make their decision. They can affirm the proposal, stand aside, indicate no. And we did add this for clarity. If a committee member wants to abstain from making a decision because they either, for one reason or another, they can do so. And so maybe I will just prompt any folks if there's any acknowledgements. I know that whenever we get in decision making, this is the one point where I'll just ask before we move to this next part. If anyone has any potential conflicts, if anyone wants to address those, I think I know we've always been tracking this as we've gone along in the discussions, but I'll turn it to the next slide. Leave it to you all at this point, and then also prompt anyone. This would be the moment that if you have a potential conflict, this would be a moment that I would acknowledge that too.
Yeah, I just want to state for the record that in my professional job, I'm a consultant. I work a lot with finance and climate funds and economic development. So undoubtedly, my work will cross paths in some degree with some element of this climate investment plan. So right now, nothing has directly been identified, but just want to outline that there is a potential for conflict with me, but I plan on, kind of no real conflict, and I plan on, voting on this.
Well, similar to Robin, I have a potential conflict, at least just potentially down the road. I work for Elevate Energy that's focused on making sure that everyone has access to clean and affordable power, heat, and water in their homes. And specifically, we provide technical assistance around energy efficiency in affordable housing. And so because we're talking about a plan that includes aspects of that, there is a potential conflict. And I don't perceive any actual conflict to emerge. And because of that, I would like to continue to participate in this decision-making.
Okay.
Maria?
I should just share that I would also have a potential conflict as somebody who works closely with schools and school districts, as an organization, a board member for PB Oregon, who continuously works with young people. So if that interest ever comes about, I'll continue to navigate that with your support. But I don't see any issue and continue to move forward with our decisions tonight.
I also don't see any potential conflict of interest, but I do think it's important that I say that I do obviously work with contractors and in the contracting community. I definitely don't believe that Raymore specifically will have anything to do with the climate investment plan, but again, working ancillary in the community as well as doing economic development, there could be a potential. I don't foresee it, but I figured I should state it just to be safe rather than sorry.
Okay. So I think maybe just for context for folks, this is out of an abundance of caution. But you all are making recommendations, so you won't have, there will never be a situation where you have an actual conflict, but just out of an abundance of caution. And so, this is one of the many reasons why this group is exactly the group that should be here, because you know exactly what we're talking about and you're connected to the work. So I just appreciate you all doing that, because I think it's important to do that out of that abundance of caution. Okay, sorry for that interruption. I just thought that context was helpful for others.
At this time, if a committee member would like to call for a proposal.
Sure. I propose that the PSEF committee recommend the May 2023 draft of the Climate Investment Plan amended with the proposed changes referenced in the document titled Proposed Changes to the May 2023 Draft of the Climate Investment Plan, updated July 13th, 2023, to Portland City Council for approval.
I will second that.
I guess this is always confusing. So I think maybe we'll go through and I don't know if I'm gonna just look around, and I don't know if we need to do a temperature check. I think you've made the proposal, you've seconded. So let's go through and we'll just start, Paul, with you. Skip back over to D'Angelo, work our way around to Robin, and then go online.
So temperature check, can you give me a little bit more background?
I don't think we need to do, I'm gonna just look to the group. Do we need to do a temperature check? And I'm just looking around for the group.
Well,
I think we're,
Comment period was sort of.
yeah, I think you all heard the discussion already. So this is where we're still always figuring out how we do this. But I think you can just go forth, make a decision. We're not doing a temperature check.
Do you want to go back?
I approve. Yep, I approve. I approve. I stand aside. No, or I abstain.
Is this a roll call vote?
Yes.
Okay.
I know we don't do Robert's rules, so it's always gets.
I'm fine with this.
Yes.
I'm ready to go. I'm new and I'm the first person to vote. So just make sure I vote. I vote in the affirmative.
Since I proposed, I believe that counts as a vote for the affirmative, so.
And I vote in the affirmative.
I also vote for the affirmative.
I approve.
I support it.
I support it.
Alicia? Ramphis?
I vote yes.
Sounds like a pass, Sam.
I think yes. Congratulations. Yeah, I had this. I'm gonna unhide this now. It was just in case. I had it as a hidden slide. So congratulations. But you know we couldn't count it until it was done. Thank you all. Congratulations. And now more hard work. But thank you. Okay. I'm gonna call up James to bring us into this next bit.
Okay, can I just say one thing real quick?
Oh, please.
Maybe just before James gets going on the bylaws, which is like the most exciting part of this meeting, I'm sure. I just wanted to acknowledge that there's a sort of relatively small group of staff who come to the meeting, but we are a team of 15, and every single person on our team was involved in the development of the climate investment plan. So I know that some of them are listening tonight, and some of them will probably watch the recording tomorrow, but they definitely have, it's been a heavy lift by the entire team. So just really want to appreciate them as well. Now bylaws.
All right. Now bylaws and working agreements. So yeah, hello everyone. It's wonderful to be with you here today. My name is James Valdez, he, him pronouns, and I'm PSF staff. And yeah, just also want to again welcome D'Angelo, Paul, and Alicia as committee members. I've gotten to know you all just a little bit in some of the briefings, but yeah, really look forward to future opportunities to connect more. So also just again, huge congratulations for the momentous decision that was just made. And this does seem like, you know, a little bit of more of a procedural piece of bylaws and working agreements, but also something that has been in development a very long time. Not, in fact, longer than the Climate Investment Plan. So I just wanted to also, in particular, as we launch into this, just highlight the work of the subcommittee, Michael and Megan, who have worked for many months on this process, as well as on the working agreements, Andre Hamburg, a former PSF committee member who started the process and then left the committee, but I think left us in a really good place. And so I think what I'll do first is just talk a little bit about the bylaw amendments, which are really, again, mostly procedural in order to bring us into conformance and to clean up some pieces that really don't make sense anymore with the code change, or to add language to make sure that conforms with the code change that happened in October. And then I'll hand it over to Megan and Michael to talk through more of the working agreement. And just to highlight up front, there's no vote that's going to be taken on either of these documents. And for committee members, I think I printed out enough copies where you have it in front of you. For people following online, they will be posted as documents to the webpage after this meeting. But yeah, why don't we go to the next slide. And so the bylaws are kind of a formal piece of documentation that is required for all public committees that are advising city council or other, basically for public bodies, bylaws are required. And so we, or you all as a PSF committee, revised and iterated on the bylaws in 2020 after formation of the PSF committee. And then in October 26, 2022, the code changes happened. So this is an opportunity to kind of just bring those into harmony and alignment. The working agreement is referenced in the bylaws, but is really more of a living document and is a more informal document that we'll talk about more, but can be kind of amended on a more flexible basis and is intended to more capture the way that you all work with each other and the norms and values that you bring into the space. But to focus on the bylaws for just a little bit, there's really only a few major pieces of changes that were needed in order to kind of bring that into harmony with the code change. And part of that really just has to do with the Climate Investment Plan and the changes that were made of the role of the committee, moving from making grant funding recommendations to recommending the Climate Investment Plan as a whole to City Council. And so in that kind of language alignment, that shows up in a couple different places, and you can see that, you know, in the text here. The other piece of major alignment is the code changes made a definition of workforce priority population that was then used throughout the code. And so using that same definition that was also more expansive, it used to be just women, people who experience disabilities, and people of color, yes, sorry. It was expanded to add people experiencing gender-based discrimination in the workplace. And so that language is also brought throughout in this bylaws amendment to reference workforce priority populations where it makes sense, and then also to reference people who are experiencing gender-based discrimination in the workplace. The other major change to bring into alignment is just the definition of different funding areas and kind of eligible uses of PSEF funds into different categories. The code changes added transportation decarbonization as a category, as well as kind of this other category was previously defined as innovation and now is defined as other projects that reduce or sequester greenhouse gases. Then another meaningful piece of change that we're recommending as staff be made in the bylaws has to do a little bit with the role shift, and some of the language that was initially in the bylaws required that this body meet at minimum 10 times a year. And so we're recommending, and this is in the changes, that we reduce the minimum to 6 times a year. You still obviously would be able to meet monthly if that's needed. The expectation that we put out in the recruitment for committee members is an expectation of monthly meetings, but this gives us the flexibility to reduce that to 6 times a year if needed, or anywhere in between. And so, yeah, I think that is kind of the basic overview. You're not expected to read this all right now. The opportunity will be to review this, ask any questions you have of both staff and the subcommittee, the bylaws subcommittee, and then we'll come back and discuss more in the next committee meeting in August. All right, any big picture questions, or? Yeah, Robin.
Thanks for sharing the update. I think I just have a question. If you read it, the amendment, kind of literally, recommend climate investment plan to council, if I take that at face value, then our work is done. And this is also part of a question is, what is our role, after this? And we've had some discussions around it. But, I think there's been the discussion about, us being involved with, how you make some of the decision-making, not necessarily doing the decision-making, but providing the guidelines for decision-making, whether it's contracts or, future funding opportunities. So that's my just one big picture comment is, what are we doing after this?
And maybe just a quick, I should have clarified that these are kind of the language changes, but in the actual purpose statement, it would read, the committee recommends the climate investment plan to City Council and evaluates and reports on the effectiveness of the fund in achieving its intended purpose. So there is still that evaluation and reporting element captured, but the change was one of, recommending funding, grant funding recommendations to recommending the climate investment plan. And this is still just the staff recommendation for bylaw amendments. And so if there are things that, give you pause, we have the opportunity over the next month to talk about them more and to make edits. Yeah, Maria.
Thank you. Is the committee stipend part of the bylaws language? And do we have any language to clarify the role of the committee as a volunteer body and how stipends play a role in what is considered a volunteer body?
That is a good question. Sam, do you want to?
I know the stipends aren't, that language isn't in there. I mean, I think we see that more administratively. As you all know, that we stipend up to $500 per year for committee members. So I think, I guess I just, if I go back to the committee, and I don't know about the volunteer language, if that's already in there. I would expect that would be captured somewhere in there, but I'm trying. I think I'm happy to chime back in. Maria, I guess in some ways maybe it's I might turn the question back to you. What's the value in which you see in having that stipend language more explicitly in there? It's certainly part of our solicitations when we put out for committee members that there is a stipend. It's certainly in several places, but maybe that's the question. I'd turn that back in terms of if you feel that there's a particular importance towards having that language in the bylaws.
Sure, thank you. I was expecting to find it under general operating procedures, even maybe to follow conflicts of interest, because I know there's been some discussion around conflicts plus a committee maybe being paid and just making sure we don't fall into the area of being consultants as committee members. So it might not fall in bylaws, it might live somewhere else, but I think that's like a frequently asked question as I get as a committee member, and even something that comes up when we interview new committee members. So a standard place to reference would be helpful.
Yeah, we'll check back in. There's part of the way that we do our stipends lines up with the rest. I mean, part of it is just we line it up with the rest of the city, and our Office of Community and Civic Life has guidance around how we do stipends. Like, this is the maximum you can do, so that, for instance, we don't trip the Volunteer Protection Act, which we've had a lot of discussions around. And but it's a city's policy around how we line up with that. And so I want to maybe have staff turn back, and we'll see if we can find that, share that, see if that suffices. If not, it may just be an area that we can look back and connect with the subcommittee around providing clarification in the bylaws.
Great. So I think I'll hand it over to Megan and Michael then to talk more through, at a very high level at least, the working agreement document. And there's a slide that kind of talks about the purpose as well as some of the structure. But
Yeah, thanks, James. And to just reiterate something James said, that these two documents work in tandem. They say some of the same thing, but the working agreements have more detail because the bylaws are this kind of more formal document that requires a bigger deal to change, and so it's a little higher level and more procedural and legislative in nature, whereas the working agreements we own as a body of 9, and we have a lot of power to change them as we want, and so they are more detailed, and they really kind of are a place where we're trying to carry the spirit of how we operate. So Michael and I have been meeting with Mika and James for a little while now, and this might look familiar to old-time members or not, because it's been a long time since we looked at them, so it's kind of fresh for everybody, and it's good timing with 3 new members, because actually in our procedures is when you become a new member, you look at the working agreements and bylaws and agree to them. So this is a great introduction, and you all will get a chance to vote on them. And my take, Michael and I have been in some meetings kind of looking at these and reflecting on, do these both reflect what we're actually doing in practice, because that seems important, but also there's some of it that is aspirational that we're not doing in practice yet, but Michael and I thought were good ideas. So I'm just going to walk through a few things I think stand out and then turn it to you, Michael. I know we don't have a lot of time, so I'll be very brief. And a reminder that our goal is just to kind of introduce this and then collect feedback from you all through staff over the CCing, Michael and I, over the next month, so that we possibly will vote on it per one of our practices, which I wonder if should go in here, which is that we never make a big decision in a rushed way in one meeting. We have at least 2 meetings to deliberate something. But going through it, there's no big changes to the guiding principles. Those should be very familiar to those of us who helped make them, and you saw them in maybe slightly different words, but also in the climate investment plan. So that part of it is no big changes. 3, commitment to equity and anti-racism. I don't think we made any big changes, although we think it's really important, the content in there, like recognizing past and present role of colonial systems and other historic inequities, and how we really agree as a committee to be anti-racist. So we have lots of content there, but there were no big changes from the last version. In commitment to community engagement, no big changes, but I still think it's important that we mention over and over that we as 9 don't feel that we represent all of Portland communities. So it says in there that we believe in these values of reciprocity and partnership and some of the other highlighted things here. I will say one thing that we wanted to raise for your question is under participation on page 6, under commitment to community engagement. It does say that we have in these working agreements, I think from the original draft, this language that isn't our real practice, and maybe we want it or not, but it says something about limiting committee members to 4-year terms. Our terms are 4 years, and I think there was a spirit there that so that more members of impacted communities can participate. At the same time, now that we've been on it, I think we possibly see some value to having some institutional knowledge and some carry through. So I think that's just a question to get all your input on is, do we actually want that phrase in here, or do we want it to be a bit more nuanced? or remove it, or et cetera. So just kind of opening that right now. Moving, just to try to move quickly, commitment to equity and governance, 5. We experienced it tonight, but it's not a change, but we do use modified consensus decision-making, and the goal is not that we call for like total unanimity, it's that we actually want there to be conflict on our committee, because that's what would happen if we're all bringing our true, authentic, different perspectives. So that's the attempt we're trying to reach here. Under number 6, this is where we actually have made a lot of changes, committee member roles and leadership, again, to really reflect what we think we're actually doing in practice. So under B, committee member roles, I think this is what we think that went in your recruitment, or it should in the future for recruiting new committee members. It should be really clear what you're signing on to when you agree to be a committee member. So this list of A through G has kind of the list we came up with, and I think that we shared with the recruitment committee, of like a starting point. And you can see on there, some of the specifics. And it has things like attend regularly scheduled meetings. Under E, it does say meet once each month for 2 hours with smaller briefing. This is more detailed and a higher bar than in the bylaws, and that's kind of intentional in that this is how we have been operating in the working agreements. We've been meeting twice a month, once publicly and once in smaller. So this is meant to be reflective, and we can always meet less maybe, but we wanted it to be like detailed and transparent. I'll just say a few more things and then see if Michael has anything to add. Going forward, let's see. The other things under committee member roles and leadership, over to D and E, I think we added a little bit about co-chairs and terms, that these are, co-chairs are 2-year terms, and if there's a lot of people who want to do it, we'll have a ranked choice vote. So that's kind of a new add. We didn't really have a process outlined for co-chairs before, so we added a possible process, and we added some details about the responsibilities of the co-chair that seem to more accurately reflect what Rand Feast and I feel we've been doing. And then just looking through the rest, under committee member conduct, again, I'll point out B, that our goal is not to like suppress conflict on our committee, but to kind of be collaborative, bring our different perspectives and be collaborative. Under 8, BPS roles, this is a more aspirational part. Under B, we added a thing about having an annual collective staff and committee support survey by the committee, in which PISA staff will distribute a survey to us annually in the fall that will reflect on how it's going working with staff, and do we feel supported by staff to do our work. We haven't had that sort of regular touch point, and we thought that would be a thing to have and do and start practicing. So that's new here. As is, under 9, review and amendment process for working agreements. Well, the whole point here is that these are working agreements. We have some structured timelines upon reviewing them when new members join every 2 years. And then we also have another annual committee self-survey in which the co-chairs would survey our committee members to reflect on how are we doing as a committee, are the co-chairs supporting. So kind of two different, an annual staff survey and a more annual committee survey as just places of reflection. And we put fall, because that seemed like a nice time to do it. When we, kind of this year at least, we will have maybe a lighter plate after moving this CIP forward. So those are some of the changes. Michael, do you want to add on to anything?
I don't have a lot to add to that. I'm not sure if anybody ever saw working agreements or if we ever actually did present them in the past. I can't remember. I think I started working on this almost 4 years ago. And I'm not sure we've actually ever presented working agreements to you. I know that we were working on working agreements at the same time we were doing bylaws, because we were kind of separating parts into each, and then we got bylaws done, and then it was just kind of a skeleton of a working agreement. So I'm not sure that anybody's actually presented with these before.
If I'm remembering the order properly, there was an outline of the working agreement presented when the bylaws were also adopted, but it was not nearly as built out as this. So this is effectively the first time that the committee is seeing like a full document of the working agreement.
So I hope we all have some time over the next month to go through it. It's got we tried to put a strong focus on equity, anti-racism, and partnerships with community. Kind of is the focus of this, that, we work together, we have conflict together, but most importantly, the idea behind this is that we are here to listen to community and what community wants and what community needs, not what we think community wants and needs. And to take that into the Portland Clean Energy Fund and really make that the focus of how we do business, both amongst each other and with the community.
All right, maybe next slide, just in terms of. So I guess this is a little bit of guidance of just as you read these and reflect on comments or elements that you think might need to be incorporated. These are some prompting questions. And I don't know, Megan, do you want to read them or do you want me to? Yeah. Okay. So just generally, are there areas of clarification that you need, things that just don't make sense or do you feel could be worded more clearly? And then this is kind of a reflection that might be a little bit more for existing committee members, but also I encourage new committee members to think about, are there places that don't match current practices or your expectations, or that you feel are overly aspirational, where you don't know if, you as a committee member could commit to that. I think it's also good, to highlight those. And then if you do have any suggestions for edits or questions that you want addressed, do send them to via email to committee members Michael and Megan, as well as to Mika and myself, and we can provide our email addresses in follow-up. But I think that's the next steps, and then we will plan to review these again and have some time on the August agenda. Are we doing on time?
Perfect.
8 o'clock, perfect.
Perfect timing, James. All right, everyone, thank you for joining this evening. Much success of hard work that's been recognized. Congratulations, committee members, and we are adjourned.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good evening.
Bye, Alicia. Get home safe.